Thank you. So Guru Maharaj, I'm assuming we are going through, we will go through the Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto, 5th chapter and 41st verse. And any day before yesterday, it was really nice. Let me just quickly share my screen first and then we'll, oops. Oops. Sorry, my internet seems to be a bit slow. We actually covered yesterday's verse, this verse yesterday, Guru Maharaj, and as far as I remember, it covers mainly 3 topics yesterday, and that the glories of the Kali Yuga, association
41,
of the
41 is the verse. Yeah.
41 is the verse, yes, Guru Maharaj. Yes. Should we start?
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Gyantimirandasya Gyanajana Salakaya Chaksu Undalitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasnaya Bhutale Srimakti Bhakti Vedanta Swami Iti Namine Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvashesha Sunyavadi Vastyatya De Satarne Panchakalpa Tarubhasya Kripa Sindhu Pe Vacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namaho Namaha. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhar Srivasadi Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Today we'll speak on Srimad Bhagavatam 11th canto, 5th chapter, verse number 41. And I should mention that this verse is one of the often quoted verses by the Acharyas, and it's mentioned throughout the scriptures and other places to illustrate a very essential principal point in devotional life. Devarsi bhutatma nirnam pratinam nakim karanayam rinicharajam sarvatmanam yasaranam saranyam gato mukundam pratiritya kartum. O king, one who has given up all material duties and is taking full shelter of the lotus feet of Mukunda, who offers shelter to all, is not indebted to the demigods, great sages, ordinary beings, relatives, friends, mankind, or even forefathers who passed away. Since all such classes of living entities are parts and parcel of the Supreme Lord, one who has surrendered to the Lord's service has no need to serve such persons separately. Purport. One who is not fully surrendered to the devotional service of the Lord undoubtedly has many material duties to perform. Every ordinary conditioned soul is a recipient of numerous benefits given by the demigods, provides sun and moonshine, rain, wind, food, and ultimately one's own body. In the Bhagavad Gita, it is stated, Stena eva sta, one who does not reciprocate with the demigods by offering them sacrifice is stena, or a thief. Similarly, other living entities such as cows are provided with innumerable delicious and nutritious foodstuffs. When we wake up in the morning, our mind is refreshed by the sweet singing of birds. And a hot day, we enjoy the cool shade and breeze of the forest trees. We're accepting service from innumerable living entities, and we are obliged to repay them. Apta means one's own family members to whom one is certainly obligated according to normal morality. And Nirnam means human society. Until one becomes a devotee of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one is certainly a product of his society. We receive mundane education, culture, tradition, protection from the society in which we live, and thus we owe a great debt to society. Of course, our debt to society is not simply to the present order, but to all of our forefathers and ancestors who carefully preserved moral and social customs so that we, their descendants, could live peacefully. Therefore, the word Patrinam, or forefathers, indicates our debt to previous generations. Go down, let's see how long this purport is. Okay, go back up. So here it's mentioned that when one takes birth, one is given so many things by society, as is mentioned. The sun gives sunlight, the moon gives cooling light, the wind gives cool breeze. The forefathers established social and economic standards by which we benefit from. It's not mentioned in the first part, but it's mentioned in the translation that the sages, they also give us transcendental knowledge or spiritual, religious knowledge. Yeah, great sages is mentioned. Okay. And therefore, as it says here, we are indebted to demigods, great sages, ordinary living entities, society in general, and also our parents. So we come into this world as a debtor, and therefore there are rules, regulations, and requirements for society in order to reciprocate that. And they come in the form of various types of homas, yagyas, giving in charity, and rendering service to these various agencies who come in different forms, who give us our benefit. And if we don't pay them, we are punished. Prabhupada uses the example. The sun has given you so much light, heat, nourishment. The moon also gives energy to the vegetables and gives the vegetables their flavor and their succulence. And therefore, we are responsible. If we don't pay, and he uses the example just like if you receive your electric, you're getting you're getting your gas, you're getting your water, you're getting your electricity from various economic companies. And if after some time, if you fail to pay your bill, your service is cut off. But we don't see that we have a debt to these other living entities that we must also pay, and it's automatic. That debt comes simply by taking birth. Our parents give us our body, our mother gives our body, our father gives us life, but we are indebted also to them. We are indebted to the forefathers who keep the tradition and culture alive. We're indebted to so many categories of living entities. Here, so we'll go on as it says here. In fact, the members of the Krishna Consciousness Society were sometimes criticized by materialist persons for giving too much attention to Krishna rather than working to fulfill all of the above mentioned obligations. So that's a very common thing. You're copping out, you're not doing your responsibility to society, to your parents, to your friends, to so many categories. They say you're not a part of society, you're not contributing everything, you're living off society, you're a what is it, parasite, they say. So they criticize in that way. In reply to this, the Bhagavatam states, Yata Torah Mula Nise Chenena Tripyanti Tanskanda Bujo Pasaka. If one waters the root of a tree, automatically all the branches, trees, twigs, leaves, etc. are also nourished. There is no need for, nor any effectiveness in separately pouring water on the branch, twig, or leaves of the tree. The water has to be placed on the root. Similarly, pranopaharach, chatendriyanam, food must be placed in the stomach. So here is two analogies. The stomach being the center where nourishment starts and is distributed. The roots of the tree is what nourishes the tree. And food must be placed in the stomach, from where it automatically distributes to all the limbs of the body. It is foolish to try to nourish the whole body by rubbing food separately on all the bodily limbs. That would look quite ridiculous. Similarly, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the source of existence. Everything is emanating from him. And here's the main point. Everything is maintained by him, and at the end, everything will merge to rest in Krishna. The Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, is the supreme benefactor, friend, protector, and well-wisher of every living entity. And if he is satisfied, then automatically the whole world becomes satisfied. Just as all the bodily limbs are strengthened and satisfied when food is duly remitted to the stomach. In other words, by serving Krishna in devotion and satisfying Krishna through your devotional service, all of these other categories of living entities are automatically given their remittance based on your responsibility to them. And the example is so nicely given here. You put water on the root of the tree, automatically the leaves, the branches, the twigs, everything gets nourished by the watering process. Here, another example is given that a man who is working as a personal secretary to a great king has no further obligation to petty minor kings. Undoubtedly, any ordinary person has obligations within this material world, but according to Bhagavad Gita, Mayaiva Vihitam Hitam. It is actually the Supreme Lord who is giving all benedictions. For example, one receives body by the mercy of one's parents. However, sometimes we find that a particular man or woman may become impotent at a given moment. Sometimes a deformed child is born, and sometimes a child is born dead. Often the sexual act fails to produce pregnancy at all. So though all parents desire a beautiful, highly qualified child, this is often not the case. Thus, it can be understood that ultimately it is by the mercy of the Supreme Lord that a man and woman are able to produce a child by the sexual act. So the demons think that the sexual act is the simply cause of creation, and everything comes from that. But here it's explained the different results that come by way, or no results that come by way of the sexual act. And one of them is no child. So it is by the Lord's mercy that the man's seminal injection is potent and the woman's ovum is fertile. Similarly, it is only by the mercy of the Lord that a child is born in a healthy condition and reaches physical maturity to pursue his own life. If at any stage in the evolution of the human being, the Lord's mercy is withdrawn, sudden death or crippling diseases occur. So people cannot understand why things happen. They say it's by chance, it's by acting in a certain way, things happen. If you act in a different way, something different will happen. But even if you act in the correct way, nothing is guaranteed because everything is under the control of higher authority. Just like it says, the fire in the stomach is the digestive potency of the food. And if the stomach, if the pitta is not high in the stomach area, then one can eat and will get sick because of no digestion. And what does Krishna say in the 15th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita? He says, I am the fire of digestion. He does it. He is the health of the body also. And here it goes on to say, the demigods are not independent. The word paviritya kartum, giving up other duties, indicates that one should give up any concept that the demigods are separate from Krishna. And we see people worship demigods for so many things, and they conclude Krishna as part of the worship. And they think that worshiping all these different demigods is important because their parents did it, or their parents' did it. And that is the tradition. You ask them why they do it, they say, well, you know, I learned that from my parents who got it from their parents. And so there's no clear understanding why they worship in different ways. But here, it is that Krishna especially mentions that throughout the Gita, especially in the beginning, not the beginning, but I'm sorry, in the middle of the 7th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where he says, whatever the demigods can give is supplied by me. One who worships the demigods is less intelligent. So here, further stated that the Supreme Lord is situated in everyone's heart, and that he only is giving intelligence and memory. Thus, our forefathers who carefully preserved cultural traditions were acting with intelligence provided by the Supreme Lord. They certainly were not acting with their own independent intelligence. No one can be intelligent without a brain. It is only by Krishna's mercy that we receive a human brain. If we look around, we see everything that we are, and everything we do is given to us. And this is actually knowledge, because the soul is independent of everything material and does nothing in connection to the material energy. Although it thinks it does, and that is called Maya, or illusion. The soul, under the influence of the 3 modes of material nature, thinks themselves the doer of activities which are carried out by material energy. Of course, we have to do something which is an expression of our desire, but the fulfillment of the desire, just like here, it says you want to have a child, and you may make all the arrangements, and everything may be in place. Or, given another example, you have the best doctor, and you are sick, very sick, and you maybe have a terminal illness, and you have the best doctor, and still he cannot do anything unless Krishna empowers him to do something. And we see in certain cases, I can give you an example, of people who don't even take care of their health or don't have proper medical care, somehow become cured. The example was given about a year and a half ago. One young man who was chanting Hare Krishna in jail came down with the coronavirus in jail and was completely rejected by all of the authorities and giving no care and nothing. He simply had to struggle with the virus by himself, and he was put into isolation. Of course, they don't really care, and if you die, you're just another statistic. You're a prisoner anyway, so you know you don't have any say in anything. So, but he decided to simply chant the Hare Krishna Maha Mantra, and that's what he did. He chanted and chanted and chanted and chanted and continued to chant. And after some time, the virus was gone and he was completely cured. The authorities were amazed. But this is the example to show that everything happens around the Supreme Lord and not through one's own endeavors or the extensions of the Supreme Lord's energy in the form of various living entities. Therefore, if we can carefully analyze all our multifarious obligations towards different classes of living entities, we shall find that in each and every case, it is ultimately the mercy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead that we receive the particular benediction in life. So although an ordinary person must methodically fulfill all his various obligations by executing different types of sacrifices and charitable activities for the satisfaction of those who have benefited him, one who is directly serving the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Krishna, at once fulfills all such obligations because all benedictions ultimately have come from the Lord through the agency of family, forefathers, demigods, etc. Example may be given that sometimes the state government may distribute benefits ordinarily provided by the federal government. So one who becomes a personal secretary of minister of the chief executive of the federal government has no further obligation to the less important representatives of the state government. Therefore, the stated in Srimad Bhagavatam, Vat karmini karvita nanividyeta yavata matkata swavanada va stradayavana jayate. So here, this is a very important verse to understand in relationship to this topic we are discussing. As long as one is not satiated by fruitive activities and has not awakened his taste for devotional service by hearing and chanting about the Supreme Lord, one has to act according to the regulative principles of the Vedic injunction. The conclusion is that one who has fully surrendered to the devotional service of the Lord is a first-class human being. So because we are not fully surrendered to the Lord, we still have to fulfill all of these other obligations. But when we come to the point of surrendering to the Lord, then all of these obligations are automatically taken care of, and these living entities also become satisfied. This is the exclusive position of the living entity in relationship to the Lord. There are no more material obligations because Krishna is the mula, he is the root of everything. And as we use the example, take care of the root, the whole tree is nourished. Here we go. Now, this is a very important point. So therefore, this purport is extensively discussing this point so we can understand the importance of this particular verse. People in general are only eager to receive benedictions from demigods, family members, and societies because such benedictions are conducive to material sense gratification. Yeah, so this is why we still are connected to the material energy and all of the persons involved because we still want sense gratification. Less intelligent persons consider such material progress to be the only goal of life, and thus they cannot appreciate the exalted position of pure devotional service to the Lord. So yeah, therefore, as we try to explain, even the devotees can't understand this verse because they still think they have to fulfill all of their material obligations or they will be, what we say, punished. But here it explained clearly, Bhakti Yoga of pure devotional service is meant to directly please the senses of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Envious materialist persons propose various arguments to deny that the Supreme Lord even has transcendental senses. The devotees, however, do not waste time doubting the inconceivable beauty, strength, wealth, geniality of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Directly please the Lord's senses through loving service and thus receive the supreme benediction of going back home, back to Godhead. Devotees return to the Lord's abode where life is eternal, full of knowledge and bliss. No demigod, family member, or forefather can give one eternal life of bliss and knowledge. However, if one foolishly neglects the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord and instead accepts the temporary material body to be everything, and one must certainly perform elaborate sacrifices, austerities, and charity to fulfill all of the obligations mentioned above. Otherwise, one can become completely sinful and condemned even from a material point of view. So we're getting a clear understanding. So I hope the message is clear that Krishna is the root and all of these others. But because we are still very much attached to sense gratification and the duties that give us sense gratification, such as these various categories of people, demigods, people like to perform elaborate sacrifices to the demigods. It gives them kind of like some kind of prestige. And they think they're satisfying the demigods. Great sages, of course, they give us great knowledge. And therefore they are mentioned because people are taking knowledge from these personalities without reciprocating. Ordinary living beings, we have social obligations to people in general as we interact with them. Relatives, family members. We feel that there is so much, we have to go to this function, we have to go to that function, we have to go to this wedding, we have to go to this funeral, we have to go to this, so many obligations in the relatives like that. We have to associate with the relatives, so many things. Friends, and then we have friends that we develop in this world, mankind, or even forefathers who set the tradition. Now, this verse is foundational. It's mentioned in the Bhagavad Gita and different places, also in other scriptures, how if one is fully acknowledged that the Supreme Personality of Godhead is the sunum bonum, or the essence of all activities in life, and one surrenders to the Lord in devotional service, there are no more material obligations to perform. Just like sometimes I see devotees, they're going to college and all of a sudden they want to drop out and join the Hare Krishna movement, but they still have their debt to pay. They have borrowed money or they get some kind of grant where they're obliged to pay back the grant at the time of once they graduate. They should work and pay back like that. So they make a deal like that. And they feel reluctant to join because then they continue to stay in the material world, finishing all of these things, wasting their time with all of these things, because as soon as one surrenders to the Supreme Lord in devotion, then Krishna will arrange for everything to be taken care of automatically, perfectly, because he is the root. He controls everything at every moment, and not even at every moment, but between every moment. He is the absolute principle of control on all levels of existence, material, spiritual. He even can control our minds and make us think in a certain way and think in a different way. His control is so powerful and so complete. Therefore, we should think, well, if everything is found in Krishna, then why do we have to waste time with all of this other stuff and neglect the essence, which is, devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead? So here, it does give some concession, saying that, well, unless you are surrendered, you still have to do your duty to these different categories. But because we're not fully surrendered, we might be partially surrendered or surrendered a little bit, or we like Krishna consciousness, but we don't really know Krishna so much. He's so far away and we can't really relate to him. Is he really like that, as the scriptures say? Is he in our heart and he's there every minute guiding us? All of the answers to all these questions are automatically understood by one who surrenders in devotional service to the Lord. Because one who surrenders can see how the Lord is acting in the life of the devotee at every moment. If we think we are doing something, of course we are the desire, and desire is not simply static. Desire is a principle by which activity develops from. But ultimately, the results of the activity is given by the Supreme Lord and not by our own endeavors. We should be very much aware that actually we need nothing but devotional service. And not only do we fulfill all the obligations, but we fulfill all our desires for happiness, for peace. Everything is there in the Lord, because this material world is simply the extension of the Lord's energy to fulfill the living entity's desire to be separate from the Lord. So gradually removing that separate mentality means to come back to Krishna in devotional service and ultimately become his devotee. In actuality, we always are his devotee. We cannot be anything else, because we are a pure spirit entity. His body is given to us. We have different types of bodies, and we have to relate to the body to a certain degree. But just like you have a car, you have to relate to the car in terms of keeping the workings of the car up to standard so it drives nicely. You have to keep it clean outside and inside. You have to change the oil. You have to give it gas. And you have to, it's important because you want to drive the car to different places. So the body is like a car. The analogy fits perfectly. But we are not the car. We are the driver of the car. And the car, even if we don't have a car, we still exist. If we don't have a body, we still exist. So the body is useful while we're in the material world, but it's not us. So one who thinks they're this body and acts accordingly is called a fool. The word is mudha, or ass, or camel, or dog, or pig. One who thinks that they're this material body is no better than the lower animals who cannot understand anything different than the body that they have. Okay, so if you read and study this verse and listen to Srila Prabhupada's statements on this verse, he has spoken about this verse numerous times in various lectures. You can do a Google search and check and see how many times Prabhupada has spoken about this. Because when we know the essence of this verse, we are free. We are free, and there's no restrictions anywhere or anywhere. You're free, and you're also protected at the same time. By the same person that you surrender to, you're protected by Krishna. Okay, so Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj, for such a good reminder, and it was really good class especially for I think many of in this group would agree from the Indian background. We follow so many obligations, so this verse always remind us that if we take the Lord's shelter, then it would fulfill all the obligations as also our desires. So thank you so much, Guru Maharaj.
So the conclusion is, come to the disciples meeting.
Yes.
That's the conclusion. Therefore, you can fulfill your obligations.
I think most of us are coming. We hope that we'll see each other. It'll be a really nice gathering, and looking forward for it.
I hope so.
So devotees, if you have any questions, comments, realizations, please unmute yourself and please keep cameras on as well. It will be really nice to take your darshan. Thank you. Hare Krishna. So Guru Maharaj, while we are waiting, I have a question. Like I would like to ask on this one is, still in India, when someone dies, we have 13 days of program, and even I think I've seen in the devotees' houses as well. They do all the rituals, and that needs to be done like for 13 days continuously. And in the evening they read this Garud Puran, which is, I think, it's nice thing to remind us that what happens if we do the bad actions, because Garud Puran explains that what happens after the body is gone, what happens to the soul, and what stages it has to go through. But there are rituals like it tells you that in a sand, the pictures comes up that what type of body you're going to get next, and there's so many other rituals. So do you really think that surrendering to Lord and this ritual should be stopped now?
Well, when Prabhupada opened the Krishna Balaram temple in Vrindavan, there was elaborate pujas that were required in order to do the opening. And Prabhupada writes in the Bhagavatam in the 6th canto, 3rd chapter, and I think it's purport number 23 or 24. He writes, we could have simply opened up the temple simply by having kirtan. But in order to satisfy the priests and all of the different heads of the different temples in Vrindavan, and to make them be free from the criticism that we are not we did all this as elaborate puja. Well, that applies for everything. If you're engaged in devotional service and you're chanting the holy names of the Lord, you can fulfill all of the obligations automatically. So we go through these different rituals because they're mentioned in the Shastras. But if you just come together and have kirtan, just like I remember when I was in London one time, some person died, some family members. So they invited all the devotees to come, and we had kirtan and distributed prasadam. That's it. And that was sufficient to honor the departure of the family member, and at the same time fulfill the obligation.
Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. Definitely it helps.
Well, people like all these rituals because it's kind of fun, You think, oh, I have to do this and all. We get fascinated by all these things.
It's very important, Guru Maharaj, because I just want to just extending this question. I went to India 2 weeks back, and one of my cousins, she lost her 3 family members, her husband, her father-in-law, and mother-in-law in 2 weeks' time in COVID, and she couldn't do any ritual. She was all alone with 2 very young kids, and she couldn't even see the bodies because of COVID. They didn't allow her to see any of them. So she was very sad that she couldn't perform any rituals. So I just suggested that you should do some kirtan and things like at home. So it really today's class reminds me of that conversation with her, that it was a correct suggestion to her that just do kirtan and distribute prasad.
Yeah, she wasn't negligent. If she didn't do anything, she would be negligent.
Yeah.
But she did kirtan, and therefore kirtan satisfies the Supreme Personality of Godhead and fulfills all of one's obligations.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj. Really helpful.
Yeah. Any other comments or questions? I think everybody's frozen now, right?
So there is a question in the chat. Sorry, Shridevi Mataji, if that's okay, if I can take this from Devananda Prabhu. So first question was from Narsingh Leela Mataji, and then we'll take Shridevi Mataji's question.
Did you ask all the devotees to turn on their videos?
Yes, I did. Devotees, if you can please keep your cameras on, it'd be really nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so Guru Maharaj, I'm going to read the Narsingh Leela Mataji's question. So she's saying, dear Guru Maharaj, often we say that at neophyte stage, one obligations to the family, society, etc. joins our movement, and after some time leaves the movement due to immature understanding. At the beginning, it sounds attractive to leave everything behind, but after some time, we understand we aren't really surrendered, and our material desires comes up. How to balance? Who is supposed to give guidance to the very neophyte devotees? I have seen that in our temple, sometimes there is no one to direct new people who join, and after a couple of months or year, they leave dissatisfied with devotees.
Yeah, one should get guidance from senior devotees, especially if you're from the spiritual master. Because some, like Prabhupada also said that we shouldn't neglect our parents. He told the devotees, don't simply to neglect your parents. Try to spend time with them, and otherwise they'll criticize and say this movement is breaking up families. And we do that. But what it says is that at the expense of devotional service, we opt for material responsibilities. Yeah. So fulfill your material responsibilities, but not at the expense of devotional service. But that may not even be necessary. But if you want to, you can. But it's just like waving a picture of a pizza in front of somebody's face and saying, "Have a feast," What do yeah, there's no substance to that kind of activity. It's simply, material obligations are what they are. They're given to us by our relationships in society. And if one is not ready to give them up, and at the same time not fixed in devotional service, then one should gradually move in that direction, slowly giving up the relationships, increasing one's devotional service, and ultimately coming to the point of surrender. If one has faith in the instructions of Krishna coming through the spiritual master and follows that, then automatically all obligations are taken care of.
Thank you.
Yeah, she made a nice point. If we're not ready, then that's what will happen.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. I think that answers, and she said, thank you. So Narsingla Mataji, if you have any other questions, cross questions, please type in the chat box and I would ask Guru Maharaj. And Devananda Prabhu, I'll ask you a question just after Shridevi Mataji. Shridevi Mataji, you can go ahead.
Thank you, Sati Muhammad. Dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. All glories to your divine lotus feet. Thank you, Guru Maharaj, for a very, very clear explanation of the supremacy of devotional service. I have some questions regarding that coming to material obligations, but I'll ask that later. My first question is about surrender and partial surrender and not having full faith. How can we have complete faith and how can we fully surrender? Because many times we may think, why will Krishna bother about someone like me? Why will he care about, small fry? Maybe Krishna is only going to take care of pure devotees and exalted devotees, and I'm just neophyte. I'm just, a newbie. So how can I expect Krishna's favor or anything from Krishna, because I'm just beginning my devotional life? So how we can feel Krishna's there really for us?
Well, you might also say that those who are now pure devotees were also at one time not pure devotees or mixed devotees. So Krishna gives his mercy in the form of the spiritual master to guide people ultimately to come to the platform of pure devotional service. And that guidance takes the form of following the instructions of the spiritual master. So when one simply follows the instructions of the spiritual master and tries to please Krishna through that endeavor, one is properly situated, and one will gradually come to the point of pure devotional service. But if we pick and choose, I like this instruction, I don't like this instruction. This instruction is convenient, this instruction is too difficult. Then we remain on the platform of the mind rather than being on the spiritual platform. We're listening to our mind rather than listening to the spiritual master. Just like we have the example of Dhritarashtra. Dhritarashtra knew that his sons were wrong. Dhritarashtra knew that Krishna was the supreme personality of Godhead. But still, he was so attached to his family members that he couldn't accept the fact that the Pandavas were the right heir, and he supported his sons, although he knew they were wrong, because of family attachment. This is called weakness of heart, where one knows what is right but can't do it because of material attachments.
So how to overcome this weakness of the heart, and how to actually follow the instructions with full faith and full heart?
Well, one of them is to associate with devotees. And when we get that association, and who are devotees who are fixed in Krishna consciousness, we start developing some of those tendencies. And then it becomes more easy. The other thing is just to simply have faith in the instructions of the spiritual master and follow them. Why do we take a spiritual master if we don't have complete faith in what he says? Or if material situations appear and at the same time we have to choose, and therefore we choose a material because we can logically understand that, and the instructions of the spiritual master seem too far away from our understanding, and therefore we don't do it. I could give many examples, especially in relationship to this COVID crisis that happened the last 2 years, what I was saying about it, and people were doubting me and criticizing me. Now it's the fact that everything I said was correct. You might say, well, you're not even talking about spiritual. But it doesn't matter. The spiritual master can also speak on material topics in relationship to Krishna consciousness. Srila Prabhupada did that all the times. You listen to the first canto of his Srimad Bhagavatam classes or the 7th canto of his Srimad, how much he talked about politics, economics, and day-to-day activities in the material world, and connected everything with the higher principles of Vedic knowledge and culture. Right. So I was disappointed how people were doubting me when I was speaking about what's going on in this material world. And people were saying, oh, no, we should believe the media. The media is right, because that's what we hear all the time. And we put our faith. Prabhupada said, we believe the scientists, but we don't believe the Srimad Bhagavatam. We believe our experts in the material world who are just speculators. And we take that superior. Therefore, we don't have faith in Krishna or in his representatives. Or we have partial faith, or when faith becomes, what we say, easily acceptable. When the instructions are easily acceptable, we get all excited and say Ki Jai. But when the instructions are difficult, we go the other way. Or we have some doubts like that. But purification in the process of devotional service means to accept things that may be difficult, but they're ultimately meant for our advancement in Krishna consciousness.
Right. That's so true, Guru Maharaj. I am very much, I think I'm going to listen to this lecture again, especially this part, because everything that you have said is so pertinent and it is so valuable because we must understand that the darkness is so much that only the spiritual master can lead us out, and not listening to the mind is something we have to practice to overcome the pushings of the mind. And having association of good fixed devotees is very important for our spiritual life. So thank you very much for a very detailed explanation, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Yeah.
Thank you, Shudevi Mataji. And so Guru Maharaj, we have next question from Devananda Prabhu. And he's saying, all Hare Krishna, all glories to Prabhupada, all glories to the Vaishnavas, and all glories to you, dear Guru Maharaj. You were talking about demigods today. I have no experience of associating or worshipping demigods, but I have had experience of associating with ancestors. One clairvoyant woman in my city helped to establish contact with the ancestors of my family. With their help, I was able to solve some of my problems. I certainly know verse 9.25 from Bhagavad Gita, and I understand that worship and complete surrender to Krishna is of the greatest importance. But it seems to me that we can avoid many problems in life, improve a lot, if we have the knowledge of how to behave towards ancestors and demigods. Can you comment on this?
Krishna says it himself. This verse says it himself. Krishna says, whatever the demigods can do, that's coming from me. Whatever the ancestors are doing, it's coming from me. So we can take help from them, but you have to understand it. Krishna says, Savasya Jahamridisani Firsto, Matat Smita Jnanam Apohanam Cha. That I am in the hearts of all living entities. I give knowledge, I give forgetfulness, and I give remembrance. No one can do anything unless Krishna sanctions it. No one. So if we take help from these different agencies, ultimately they are empowered by Krishna in a certain way. The example is given in the purport. Everything is in line for having a child. And so when one may take help from doctors, one may take help from so many medical experts and so many things in order to, facilitate pregnancy. But unless Krishna sanctions it, it won't happen. So one can go through the process of the activities on an ordinary level, but ultimately it's Krishna. If you don't have that faith, then you're simply on the mental platform. Oh, this person is good and this person is not good. Yeah. Just like I give this class all the time, how Krishna empowers his devotees to do things on his behalf and then gives the credit to the devotee. Prabhupada also said that, and he writes about it. Prabhupada said, Prabhupada was asked, Lord Chaitanya was here and he spread Krishna consciousness throughout the Indian subcontinent. Why didn't he continue and spread Krishna consciousness around the world? Prabhupada said he left it for me to do. But that doesn't mean I'm on my own. He means that Krishna has not empowered me to do this work. I'm empowered by him through my own spiritual master. So behind the scenes, there's two causes to every activity. There is the immediate cause and the remote cause. The immediate cause is what's happening in your forefront, and the remote cause is Krishna. And the immediate cause is affected by the remote cause, who is the foundation. That's why it says, Ishwar Parama Krishna, Satchidananda Vigraha, Anadir Adir Govinda, Sarva Karana Karanam. He is the cause of all causes. And so that's illustrated by Lord Brahma himself. Brahma is giving that statement that behind everything is the supreme cause, Krishna. So we may take help from people in this material world, and that's fine. but you should understand they can't do anything. And Prabhupada just gives the example over and over again. And I use the example also. A doctor may be expert, but if Krishna doesn't empower that doctor, he can't save that patient. And even if Krishna doesn't empower a particular doctor, if he wants to save that patient's saved. A fire travels through the forest, and sometimes it'll jump from one tree over another tree onto the next tree and not touch one particular tree. So the karmis will say it's expertise, it's chance, it's one's good fortune. Boy, you had good luck. All these are simple words. They have the meaning is that behind everything is the grace of the Lord. Everything.
I hope.
When you choose Krishna consciousness, you'll always be in the best position. Even if things don't immediately go according to your what we say, what is that? Your idea of how it should come out. Ultimately, in the long run, it'll be good because you're connected to Krishna. Krishna wants to save someone, they're saved. Krishna doesn't want to save anyone. That person, nothing they can do. And he's independent. He works for the benefit of all living entities, but he doesn't see the immediate benefit which we see. He sees the ultimate benefit. What is good for our spiritual progress. We might think, well, this foodstuff that I like very much, I'm going to eat it because I like it. And then we find it gives us some problems on the physical level. So the doctor says, well, you shouldn't take it. And so we agree with the doctor. And so, therefore, when sometimes Krishna will say, well, this is not good for you, and he'll confirm that that negativity through the external energy just to convince us that it's not good for us. One who sees their spiritual master in everything sees correctly. It's mentioned by the great souls that every time I hear someone speak, I listen to the voice of my spiritual master. That is pure Krishna consciousness.
Mm-hmm.
If we're not convinced, then we have a ways to go yet. Doesn't mean we're not successful. It means that we still haven't come to that what is called strata. Strata means that faith which is not broken in any circumstance. There's a verse in the Bhagavad Gita. Let me see, what is that verse? Go to verse number 7th chapter.
Yes, Guru Maharaj, I'm just opening it.
Of Bhagavad Gita, verse number, I think it's verse 28.
7 chapter 28. Okay.
It may not be 28, may be a different verse, but let's see. 7th chapter is for sure. Not Bhagavatam.
Yes, Guru.
Bhagavad Gita. You're in Bhagavatam. You're in the wrong place. Yeah. Okay. So go, just go down the page and I'll find the verse. Go to verse 28. Yeah, okay. There you go. Yesam twantagatam papmam jnanamam punya karmanam tve danda mohani mukta bhajate mam dadhavataha. Persons who has acted piously in previous life and in this life whose sinful actions are completely eradicated are freed from the dualities of delusions and they engage themselves in my service with determination. So we have to come to this stage. Free from the dualities of delusion, the changing of the material energy, and they have had pious activities in previous lives and in this life. Only then can they be fully fixed in engaging in devotional service. Drita Vrata. Yeah. Devananda Pandit, is that okay?
Yes, thank you very much.
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Prabhu. Sridevi Mataji, you can ask a question.
Thank you, Satyabhama. Guru Maharaj, I have a couple of questions. One question is, if we are getting more opportunities for service, can we conclude, even if we may not be thinking like that or feeling like that, can we conclude that the spiritual master and Krishna are pleased with us and therefore we are getting more opportunities for service?
That's one way to look at it, and that's also correct. Or you may also be, if say you're a temple devotee and you're very surrendered and you're very expert at doing your service, the temple authorities will come to you every time. Because they see here's some quality, this person can get the job done, this person and knows how to do things. This person is qualified. There's an old saying in the material world: if you want to get something done, ask a busy man. Because he knows how to use time. Those who don't do hardly anything, if you ask them to do something, they say, I don't have any time. So you can say it might be Krishna's grace, or it might just be the way you are functioning that you're attracting more and more service to you.
So is that good, or is that something one should be careful not to get piled on with too much and then lose health?
Well, you have to see.
Okay.
Yep. If you can do it, do it.
Right. Yes, Guru Maharaj.
But the second thing is, if you can't do it, figure out ways that it can get done by using other people. Never say no. Never say no. Always say, well, I can't do it, but I'll get it done for you.
Right. Yes, Guru Maharaj. That's an important point to note, and I will write that down. The second question I have is, how can we find devotee association that is truly inspirational and uplifts us in our determination, faith, etc.?
Look for it. Seek it out.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Like I know some devotees, they're so qualified and they're always so busy, but more and more people come to them because they attract people by their character, by their service, by their compassion.
Shridevi Mataji, do you have any other question?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Madhvi Mataji, you have your hands up.
Hare Krishna, yeah, Satyanarayana Prabhu wants to.
Hare Krishna Maharaj, obeisances unto your lotus feet, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Also, I just like to share my personal experience, this about the getting service. If you have a strong desire, so desire brings you service. Am I correct, Maharaj?
Yeah. Correct. As you desire, then you put in place the spirit. If you desire materially, you move the material energy. And if you desire spiritually, you move the spiritual energy. Desire is the foundation by which everything happens.
Thank you. Thank you, Maharaj.
Thank you. Thank you, ma'am. Prabhu, for a nice question. Any other questions, devotees? Shridevi Mataji, yes, go ahead.
I
Is
just
there
have
anybody,
to,
is there anybody else besides Sridevi out there? Is there anyone in the chat who sent nothing in the chat?
Nothing in the chat, Guru Maharaj. There were two questions which I've already asked.
Okay, if there's no one else, then Sridevi's got the floor.
I hope you don't mind. I hope you don't mind, Guru Maharaj. But
I don't
what if
mind,
we
but the problem with asking a lot of questions is you have to remember all the answers of each question.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Thank you for that reminder. Because I know that I ask the questions and I listen, but not much gets into my head, I think, because then I again ask the same question.
You're taking notes, are you?
Yeah, I'm taking notes also. I think I should read my notes again and again.
Well, that's the purpose of taking them, right? Not so you can use up the paper somebody gave you. All right. Prabhupada used to say that. He said, before you can keep eating, you should be able to digest what you already ate.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. So maybe I should defer my questions to next time.
It's up to you.
Well, just this one time I'll ask Guru Maharaj, if you don't mind. If that's okay.
You got the floor.
Okay. So, of course, we understand that our desires will then carry us this way and that way. But what if we have mixed desires? What if we are not fully desiring only spiritual things and we have mixed desires? Then how to navigate that?
Yeah, sometimes you'll choose Krishna, sometimes you'll choose Maya. That's the result of mixed desires. Sometimes you choose devotional service and sometimes you choose Maya. Because desires are a force. And if you can recognize your material desires and restrain the desire to fulfill them, then you can move forward and get rid of those material desires and come to pure desire. If you keep material desires and simply fulfill or not fulfill accordingly, then they'll continue. I know this is a material desire, but I should engage in devotional service. I should chant the holy names of the Lord instead of turning on the television show that my relatives told me to watch. So refraining from is the feature of the intelligence, to discriminate. Okay. Satyabhama, you retired, huh? That's okay. You went past the hour anyway, so
No.
we only pay you for 1 hour anyway. We're happy Srimati's there.
Maybe I'm not sure if I can mention it on the call here. It's on YouTube live.
Okay. Well, you're doing good.
No, Guru Maharaj, no.
I can say you have a great ability to improve.
Yes, I need to improve, definitely. Yes.
No, you know how to improve. I see that. It's good. But improvement is not something that you reach. You just keep improving. That's all.
Yes. It's not there. We all are trying. All the Zoom hosts are trying by all of your blessings.
Everyone's going to Dimple's classes.
Yes.
She asked me just recently, how are they doing? And I said, well, I think they need more.
Yes. Yes, we need more. Yes, absolutely right. But it's very good guidance, very helpful.
She's very sweet, very good natured, speaks very carefully and very beautifully. But she knows what she's saying.
Yes, we had a very good session with her. She explained to us very nicely. So, and Sridevi Mataji is putting so much effort as well. So all glories to both of their services. They're really, really wonderful, helpers and always there.
Okay. Okay, so maybe Srimati can close the program with the announcements, and then tomorrow is, for those who can make it, it's 9 a.m. UK time. And I think Srimati will announce that also. Tomorrow it's with the Russian devotees, and it starts at 9 a.m. UK time. It's a overview of the second chapter of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is probably one of the most important chapters in the entire Bhagavatam. So that'll start at 9 a.m. UK time. You just make your adjustments according to your time.
Yeah. Hare Krishna, dear Guru Maharaj, please accept my humble obeisances, always to Srila Prabhupada. Yes, Guru Maharaj, I posted the link in the WhatsApp group. So it will be 9 a.m. UK time, and it will be 4 a.m. Eastern and 3 a.m. Central time. But for India, it will be 1:30 p.m. In the afternoon. So
the Indian devotees get the benefit.
Yes,
the European devotees also get the benefit. The Americans, well,
yeah.
They can't sleep. They can just come and listen to my lecture, and then they can easily fall asleep.
No, Guru Maharaj. So actually in our regular time, I have arranged His Grace Bhuta Bhavana Prabhu will be the speaker. So Bhuta Bhavana Prabhu will give the class at 12 p.m. UK time in our regular timing. So
On
that
Sunday.
is
On
tomorrow,
Sunday.
Guru Maharaj, Saturday.
Oh, okay, wonderful, wonderful.
Yeah. And Sunday's class by Her Grace Radha Vinodini Mataji.
Very good, thank you.
She's going to give the class.
And I'll be back on Monday for regular classes.
Sure, Guru Maharaj.
The weekends are always, the weekends for me are always filled up with so many other activities.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much, Guru Maharaj, for the nice class and nice questions. Even I was I was reflecting myself with these questions which Narsingalila Mataji and Sridevi Mataji and Devanand Pandit Prabhuji was asking. So even I was thinking about them. So we have a lot of desires to do this and that and a lot of things, putting so many legs on different things. So, but as you said, ultimately Krishna conscious is the one which we have to focus on. Thank you so much.
Yeah, because that's our goal, to go back home, back to Godhead and develop our love for Krishna. And therefore, it has to be the most important thing in our life. If it's not, then we'll be forced to take birth life after life until we come to that realization.
Yeah. Thank you so much for the
Thank you. So
Thank you,
I'll leave.
Yeah, sure,
I'll leave and I'll let you make the announcements for the upcoming event and for whatever else is required. So thank you very much. Vanchakalpatarubhishya, Kripasindadevacha, Itanam Pavanebhyo, Vaishnavebhyo, or Bhaktivinoda. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj.
Thank you, Guru Maharaj. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Thank you for all the nice questions today.
Guru Maharaj, tomorrow we are leaving for Mayapur and Jagannath Puri for 1 week. Guru Maharaj, I'll be available on WhatsApp, but I will not be able to join the classes. Just want to mention.
Okay, do what you can do.
Yes, Guru Maharaj. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, dear devotees, thank you so much for participating. Just want to remind you all, as Guru Maharaj said, upcoming retreat, which is going to be from June 24th to June 27th and sorry, to 28th in London, Lincolnshire, UK, so near London. So I hope everyone have registered, but we still have time until this month end to register and to go to the retreat and have a wonderful association with Guru Maharaj and His Grace Bhuta Bhavana Prabhu and Her Grace Chitti Shakti Mataji. And Sridevi Mataji is flying from India all over to London to go to the retreat. And I hope everyone will have a very nice time there. So we are the one only missing, I think, to go to the retreat. But I hope you will have wonderful time. Thank you so much. And please encourage other devotees also to register. Thank you.